Welcome back to F2T2 Productions. Again, I am Travis, this is Connor. Today we're bringing you a client's build around a Ryzen 3rd Gen 3600 as well as his 1070 and on a B450 motherboard. Connor will be talking about the parts list here in a little bit, but end goal for this client is to have a very adequate 1080p gaming rig that is well within his confined budget, and we're hoping to stay under $1,000.
Yeah. So this is a budget system, and out the door, the client actually ended up spending $650, almost even.
Yep.
But given what we managed to pack into it, it's not going to really skimp on performance for everyday gaming. I think he'll be able to do 1080 perfectly fine, and possibly even a little 1440 if he steps up to that. We wanted to go Ryzen 3000, but without breaking the bank, thus obviously no X570. Customer's primary game is Path of Exile. He was playing on a Devil's Canyon i5 4690K. Quad-core, 4-thread processor. We're moving him up to 6-core, 12-thread.
Still a good ship, Brunt.
He was noticing his system lags under heavy load and with lots of spell effects on screen.
Yeah. He called us over.
Fix that.
Yeah, he called us over to take a look at it, and we definitely noticed a lot of tearing, a lot of lag when it was under heavy GPU load and heavy processing load.
I'm hoping that primary processor is the problem.
I think so. I mean, the game is mostly...
Because he's actually going to be donating his GTX 1070 to this rig, and I
Yep.
think that should still be plenty adequate. For
Absolutely, it's gonna pack a punch, and paired with the new chipset, we hope to not see any bottlenecking.
Yeah. He also plays League of Legends. And he may dabble in some shooters, so the hope here is that as long as he at least starts playing League of Legends first and then moves into a shooter, he should be toxic enough by the time he gets to his shooter to fit right in.
You can play with the Ruskies on CSGO.
10,000 frames a second.
Get good!
Anyway, for the parts we used, Ryzen 5 3600, not really worried about the Wraith Stealth cooler because we're going to be using a Cooler Master ML240L RGB all-in-one.
Which we've been finding has been a very good use. I use it in my personal rig on an X79 build, and it keeps my temps just screaming, even at a 4.5 all-core overclock.
Yeah, so we expect it should perform quite well here as well. ASRock B450M Pro 4 motherboard. Budget board, one of the cheaper ones available, $75 from Micro Center with the combination deal with the processor, $45. Nice deal.
Absolutely.
16 gigs of Crucial Ballistix LT Sport DDR4 3200 CAS 16 RAM.
Right.
Found that actually a couple bucks cheaper than our usual budget choice of G-Skill Aegis DDR4 3000. One of our favorites, HP EX920. 1 terabyte SSD. Used this a couple times in client builds now.
Mm-hmm.
It's not quite a 970 EVO Pro from Samsung, but it's really chasing it, and I've pretty much recommended these drives to everyone looking for some value and screaming performance.
Absolutely.
Anyway, GTX 1070 MSI's gaming card, donated from previous systems, should still be plenty adequate.
Absolutely.
SeaSonic's M12-2 EVO 620 watt bronze power supply, full modular, $45, $48 or so.
Yes.
That keeps going on sale in the 45 range.
Yes,
it's
absolutely.
Awesome. Like, sure, it's not a prime platinum ultra 1 billion watt,
but
doesn't need to be for this.
Yeah, he's using a single card, very low voltage and everything else. But the nice thing with the modular is it gives us plenty of options, because going into the case, the client really wanted to have an optical drive still in use. So the case, the NR400, still gives us the option to have an optical drive available. It's a single slot, a 5 1/4 bay up on top, but it does not sacrifice making the case larger for the mATX build, which is...
So we've actually peeked at that case. I'm really impressed with the way they laid it out. It actually does make room for that without, like you said, without artificially extending the length of the case.
Right.
And it still has tempered glass. It still has a power supply shroud. This little case is only about $50, $60.
Yep.
I think it's going to do really well for the client.
I think so too, and it looks like it's got a lot of room for airflow, and it's going to
of,
pair well with our Noctuas.
Yep.
And thank you, Noctua, for no more doo-doo brown.
Thank God.
Your NF-P14 and NF-P12 will be the two case fans in this build.
Yeah, I think what we're going to do is mount that
radiator
In the
cooler
front.
in the front.
Because of where the optical drive tray goes.
The customer did say he wanted good airflow because he does keep it in a somewhat constricted location.
Yes.
It's one of those desks with the slot that, you know, folds your case in wood, whatever. We'll have just enough airflow through there.
Right. And no RGB.
Minimum. It is an RGB cooler. So anyway, total cost to the customer, $650. And if you look at price of 1070s on the market right now,
They're about $250 give or take. It depends on the make, model, brand for
maybe
if it's a reference board or a hybrid or an AIB.
Yeah, so we're still well under $1,000 for this build, and we should have very solid 1080p and possibly 1440 gaming out of it. So without further ado, let's build.
Epic montage. As you can see, final build all put together. Connor really did a really good job at this. The cable management was super simple in this case. Had a lot of mount points in the back to really run the cables where we needed to run, and the hidden power supply compartment really seals the deal to mask where we had to keep the cables at, especially since we had to again build for the optical drive and for additional storage space.
Yeah. I've seen more expensive cases with fancier cable routing options, but this is sufficient, especially given that, again, it's a $50 case. I'm pretty happy with the experience building it. Would build again. Liked it, yeah. So you see some of the benchmark results scrolling by on the screen. Rock solid performer.
Absolutely.
As I expected. This thing ended up doing 1080p in all of our benchmarks very well, and we even managed to play some Doom at 4K, and it was smooth.
Play Doom. By that I
We have a very scientific benchmarking method for it.
I game.
That was painful.
But I got it down after a while.
Yeah, down into the ground where you splatted, which you can't even do in Doom. You don't even take fall damage, and you still die from falling. Anyway, it averaged 65 to 75k at 4K using Vulkan API
FPS.
in Doom.
60 to 75 FPS.
Yeah.
60k frames.
No,
It's not CS:GO.
And it never dipped below 60 FPS.
Absolutely. And temperatures were amazing. As you can see in some of the takeaways, it didn't really get above 85, 86 degrees on the entire rig, and it still managed to put down really well.
I mean, it's using an AIO, which keeps the cooler or the CPU chilly, and it is an air-cooled card, so I expect that these GPU temps will rise a bit, but overall that cooler is pretty sufficient. It's doing a good job.
But
So-
can we get the elephant in the room? M2 labels.
The connector is on the right side on every desktop motherboard where you actually look at it. The standard
Aesthetically.
ATX form factor, it goes right. Flip your label.
Please. But this can be combated with using a M2 heatsink, and we've used it a couple times. Again, if you choose to use the EK M2 heatsink with the 920.
It does have components on both sides of the M2 card, and that does make fitment a little difficult. Even using the thinnest 0.5 mil thermal pads I had,
Yes.
it was still a tough fit on the last build we did that with. I forwent that on this one, and at this point with this drive, realistically an M2 heatsink is more of an aesthetic choice.
Yes, absolutely. But
It's not necessary. This drive doesn't get super hot, especially for the performance it's giving. I'm impressed.
yeah, and it's my only takeaway from this entire build is that one label and the blinky light. Like
Yeah.
it would cover it and it would be just fine.
Even if they left off the activity light, okay, whatever, white level, okay, too bad. But they put it there and it draws attention to the white label. Like, what theme is that supposed to match? QR code motherboard? I don't know.
Jesus.
One thing I did do with this system that I have not done before was I actually used the motherboard RGB header. I've not done this before on any builds.
No.
My system is using Corsair's IQ ecosystem, and the last build we did was followed in those footsteps.
Yep, and I have to use the Cooler Master manual controller on my X79 again because pre-RGB.
Back when the Constitution was commissioned, they didn't have RGB. Overall, fun experience building it. Fun experience building the system. I'm really happy with the result. Possibly I could have made the back look neater, but it looks adequate.
Yeah.
It did a job.
And it's a flat panel,
everything in
right?
the front
It doesn't have the bow out.
Yeah, it didn't even
So,
need to blow out to fit. And
It had
still
lots
fits
of room.
pretty smooth. It's not like trying to force it on there to get it fit.
How does that go again? Okay.
It is a very quiet system thanks to the Noctuas. The Cooler Master fans that came with the AIO don't get too loud. I mean, yeah, they'll ramp up. I did set a silent profile, so even slamming it with Prime 95, I wasn't seeing a huge noise curve coming out
Right.
of it.
I mean, like I said, even after leaving the system on and coming back to it, it wasn't ramped up high speed.
Leaving Doom on.
Yeah, sorry, leaving Doom and it's splash
Running
screen
4K,
load.
yeah.
I came back and the only reason I found out was I put my hand in the back of the case and it was hot. It was hot to touch. I'm like, oh.
But that's expected. So one thing I want to touch on, people think, oh no, hot air coming out of my case, it must be overheating. No, the more hot air that comes out of it, the better.
Yes.
With my water-cooled rig, I learned that it actually exhausts a lot more hot air because the better thermal transfer from water to air. So yeah, I have a lot of hot air coming out of the top of my case.
You have a lot of hot air coming out of you, period.
Cut! All in all, fantastic performance for the money. And now check out these glorious B-roll shots. Woo!